welcome back to the College Basketball Bracket Science Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Brandon Jadich. It's a pleasure to be joining you guys today in our off-season edition. This is our third one. If you haven't seen the first two, go check those out, although you might not have to because everything is changing incredibly quickly. The highlight of today's show, I spent hours putting together it's an Excel document with every single team's projected lineup. Posted it on Instagram, had some people help me with some, just a couple of the teams where they think someone might start in place of someone else. So the rosters are there. Lineups might fluctuate a little bit. Obviously, there's still people in the transfer portal. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be the highlight of our show today. But before we get into that, we're going to first go through just some of the notable movements that led to some of these roster changes. Then we're going to talk about some of the team transfer rankings, 1 through 10, based on 247 Sports, who are the top teams who have done the best in the transfer portal so far this year. Then we're going to talk about our way too early top 30. We've been going 30 instead of 25. Part 3, this is our third one. As we mentioned, we're starting to get a feel of what the rosters are going to be like. So right after that, we're going to go 1 through 30. It's going to be a long show. It might be a boring show for some of those, but if you want the information of what your team's going to look like, what some of the starting lineups are going to look like for some of your rivals in conference, we're going to go over all the Power 5 teams. There's no Power 6 anymore, no more Pac-12. All the Power 5, and then just some other notable ones, the San Diego States, the Daytons of the world that we want to talk about. But so a reminder, we're going to do, normally if you're with us a lot and you're a regular listener or watcher of the show, do the way too early top 30 or any type of rankings at the end of the show. We're going to do that in the beginning, right after we talk about the notable movements, and then we can dive into the rosters where we'll talk about them right from there. So we're not just picking random teams to go through the roster. The roster part is going to take a while. Bear with me. First, let's talk about some of the notable transfer movements. Now, this is from the last week. I think our last podcast was 10 days ago. I'm going to timestamp this at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Friday, May 3rd, because everything is changing. We just had a recent commit, which we'll talk about here in a second. Someone big going to Ohio State, so we're going to talk about that. But first, let's start with, in the past 9 days, let's start with Aiden Mahaney. Haven't talked since that. He is going from St. Mary's to UConn. And 5-star, this isn't transfer portal, just recruiting, 5-star Liam McNeely committed to UConn as well. Remember, he decommitted from Indiana a while ago. He is now going to UConn. This is a big pickup for Aiden Mahaney. It seemed like Kobe Brea was kind of the front runner to replace Cam Spencer in that shooting role, but they ended up going with Aiden Mahaney, the transfer from St. Mary's. Aiden Mahaney was the 17th ranked transfer based on 247 Sports. That's where we're going to use all our data from. 17th ranked transfer, so this is a good pickup. He had a great freshman year for St. Mary's, homegrown kid next to St. Mary's. Kind of struggled last year, but good pickup for UConn. So this meant Kobe Brea, basically to default, just ended up at Kentucky. From Dayton to Kentucky. Probably the best three-point shooter in the country right now. He was 100 for 201. Incredible stuff for Kobe Brea last year. He was kind of the guy who boosted that comeback against Nevada. Remember that crazy run in March Madness. He can light it up from 3. This was a great pickup. He listed his final 5 schools. They were all blue bloods, as expected. I mean, he is a great piece to fit in. He's going to fit in well with Kentucky and Mark Pope. Mark Pope loves to shoot the 3. Kobe Brea, good pickup, ends up at Kentucky. Kentucky also signs Kerr Kriisa from West Virginia. He was the 118th ranked transfer. No, that doesn't seem great, but he's a great player. Brandon Garrison committed from Oklahoma State to Kentucky, 21st overall transfer. Otega Owe from Oklahoma to Kentucky, 28th overall transfer. And Andrew Carr, along with Amari Williams, Andrew Carr, the 63rd ranked, Amari Williams, 81st ranked. So a lot of action in Kentucky over the past 9 days. Andrew Carr's coming from Wake Forest, Amari Williams coming from Drexel. There were rumors that Amari Williams might actually decommit after he signed before Brandon Garrison, then Brandon Garrison signed. Andrew Carr didn't want to lose any playing time there, so he went to Mark Pope actually flew to Amari Williams and convinced him he's still coming back to Kentucky. So once we mention Kentucky, we got to mention Arkansas. Arkansas picked up some huge commits. John L. Davis, number 2 overall transfer according to 247 Sports, going from Florida Atlantic to Arkansas. Arkansas, his second choice. Remember, he tried to go to Michigan, could not get in, unfortunately. And then Jonas Adu, 14th overall transfer from Tennessee to Arkansas, had a crystal ball on Baylor, ended up at Arkansas. Baylor seemed like the heavy front runner. Nope. going to Arkansas, huge pickup. John L. Davis and Jonas Adu. We know John Calipari team's always super young. Two very experienced guys here, two proven athletes. These are two outstanding pickups. Cade Tyson is going from Belmont to North Carolina. He is the 30th overall transfer. He is a shooter. There's your Cormac Ryan replacement. Very nice. Vlad Golden going from Florida Atlantic to Michigan. This was expected. What wasn't expected, Javon Small, the 10th overall transfer, going from Oklahoma State to West Virginia. West Virginia loses Kirk Kriisa and gains Javon Small. That's a win in my book. West Virginia starting to put together a decent little roster. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Sean Padula going from Virginia Tech to Ole Miss. Oklahoma seemed like the frontrunner. He ends up with Chris Beard and Ole Miss. Andrej Stojakovic, son of Peja Stojakovic, of course. He is going from Stanford to Cal. Did not expect that one. He's going to Cal. Interesting choice there. Wish him all the best. Trey Townsend, 70th overall transfer, going from Oakland with Jack Kolke to Arizona. It was between the Arizona Wildcats and the Ohio State Buckeyes. He ended up choosing Arizona. Mason Gillis going from Purdue to Duke. Pop Isaacs, this was a shocker, going from Texas Tech to Creighton. Trey Alexander is in the draft. Pop Isaacs is going to replace him. This was a nice pickup. Toby Awaka going from Tennessee to Arizona. Elijah Hawkins going from Minnesota to Texas Tech. Then the one that just happened right before we pressed record, Sean Stewart going from Duke to Ohio State, former 5-star. Nice pickup for Jake Diebler and the Buckeyes there. Those are all some of the commits that are going. A few other notable names entered the transfer portal, which we'll talk about. A.J. Hogard from Michigan State entered the transfer portal. Jackson Robinson entered the transfer portal from BYU. He's also in the draft, so if he doesn't end up going through with the draft, it's likely he probably ends up at Kentucky with Mark Pope there. Nate Santos from Dayton also entered the portal. Coleman Hawkins entered the portal from Illinois, an Illinois legend there. Interesting to see him enter the portal. I didn't expect that one. Ugana Onyenso from Kentucky also entered the portal. It seemed like he was 100% in on the NBA draft, yet he entered the portal, so maybe things aren't going as well as you think there. Traven Brazil from Arkansas entered the portal as well, kind of same story as Onyenso. Cam Christie from Minnesota also entered the portal. JT Toppin, Day-Day Ames, and Jameer Watkins, 3 other notable names that all entered the portal. Few other notable notes real quick, and then I promise we'll get into the rosters. Hunter Dickinson's back. I'm sure everyone's heard about that tweet. Bill Self just tweeted at him, said, hey, what are you doing next year? Hunter Dickinson's like, I guess I'll run it back. Where was he going to go? He wasn't going anywhere. He's making millions of dollars at Kansas. He's not NBA potential, it doesn't seem like, not to put bad words into Hunter Dickinson, but he's not heavily high up on those draft boards. He's coming back as expected. Same with R.J. Davis, same position. He is a terrific college basketball player, but it's not real high up on the NBA boards. He'll make millions of dollars at North Carolina. Ryan Kalkbrenner coming back from Creighton. Jonai Broom coming back from Auburn. Another one of those. Where was he going? It's probably going to be those 4, plus probably Mark Sears as preseason All-Americans. I would think maybe you can take Kalkbrenner out of there. Dickinson was an All-American. R.J. Davis was first team. Mark Sears, All-American. Jonai Broom, All-American. Kalkbrenner was not, I don't think. Fact check me on that. I don't think he was. But with him back and Shireman and Alexander leaving, he is going to be in a huge role. Huge role. So probably those 4, Hunter Dickinson, R.J. Davis, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Jonai Broom, Mark Sears. That's probably your first team All-American as way too early preseason All-American picks, I would think. Maybe even throw Cooper Flagg in there. You never know. And then just recently, PJ Hall did declare that he is going to the draft, so that's kind of going to hurt a Clemson team that looked like they were going to return quite a bit of people from that Elite 8 run. But PJ Hall entering the draft. All right, that's all the notes we want to get through. Now we're just going to get into some labeling. Let's get into the top 10 transfer teams according to 247 Sports. As of right now, number 1, no surprise, Indiana. They got Kanan Carlisle, Miles Rice, Umar Ballo, and Luke Goody. Kansas, done terrific. Zeke Mayo, Riley Kugel, AJ Storr. They've done a great job in the portal. Arkansas, they're already up all the way to number 3. That's pretty impressive. John L. Davis, Jonas Adu, big pickups there. West Virginia at number 4. How about Darian DeVries over there doing a great job? Kentucky at 5. We expected them. I mean, they had to replace their whole roster. Same with Arkansas. They're in the top 5 as well. At 6 is Michigan. Dusty May, kind of the same position. Got to replace that replace that roster. Arkansas, Kentucky, and Michigan were the three teams who really like they say the best thing you don't really want to bring in everyone to the transfer portal or like a completely new team, but they had to. What else? What other option did they have? They didn't have a roster. They're three great what's the word I'm looking for here? They're experienced coaches. They've gotten the job done when they need to, except maybe Mark Pope, but he did a good job at BYU last year. UCLA 7th, Memphis 8th, Penny Hardaway doing a good job again. Missouri 9, and Chris Beard in Ole Miss at 10. So it differs. It all depends how you look at it. Remember, Memphis had one of the top transfer classes last year. They got to like number 10 in the AP poll. Then they sucked the rest of the year. So bear in mind, this doesn't mean everything. This doesn't mean that Indiana is going to be the best team. They still have Mike Woodson to try and figure it out over there. All right, now we're going to go through the rankings. Real quick. Then we're just going to go in order of the roster based on these rankings. Now, once again, these rankings mean absolutely nothing right now. It's just kind of where I stand in terms of their roster. Number 1 is Kansas. It's without a doubt Kansas. I wanted to put Houston number 1 so bad, but I can't. It's Kansas. Kansas's roster is spectacular. Number 2 is UConn as of right now. The addition of Aiden Mahaney and Liam McNeely and their most important player, Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley does a terrific job, obviously. 3 is Houston, 4 North Carolina, 5 Alabama, 6 Iowa State, 7 Baylor, 8 Gonzaga, 9 Duke, 10 Texas. Texas, one of those teams kind of flying under the radar. Watch out for Texas. If you have a sports book of someone to take to the Final Four, I like Texas as a little bit of a value bet. Tennessee, number 11, UCLA, number 12, Florida, 13, Arizona, 14, Purdue, 15, Auburn, 16, Marquette, 17, Cincinnati, 18, Ohio State, 19, another team, if you were looking for a Final Four bet, look at Ohio State. They have a terrific roster right now. Creighton, number 20, Texas A&M, 21, Indiana, yes, I put Indiana in. They're 22. Their roster is good. I give it to them. I got to see them play, but I had to throw them in there. Clemson drops to 23. I actually had them in the top 15 at one point, but with P.J. Hall leaving, they're at 23. Arkansas enters at 24. Rutgers in their great recruiting class at 25. Michigan State at 26. Michigan 27. Kentucky at 28. Now Kentucky, don't think that they might be the 28th best team when the season starts. They still have some work to do. They don't have an entire roster filled. I think they're going to be fine. Miami at 29. Yeah, I know. Then Mississippi State at 30. Then just labeling the next 10 that didn't really make it. I actually ranked all of these. I'll post them on Instagram if you guys want. Considered, so 31st basically, Xavier, North Carolina State, Providence, St. Mary's, St. John's, Dayton, Memphis, Ole Miss, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Maryland. I think Memphis definitely has a top 30 roster, but I think they got a bottom 30 coach, so I'm not too bought in on that yet. All right, that's all the rankings we're going to talk about. Now, keep in mind, those rankings, we're going to go down in order. It might get boring, but if you want to listen to your team, skip ahead. Skip to where you saw them in that ranking, and we'll talk about their projected lineup. Starting with Kansas. First off, let's just mention the Big 12 is going to be ridiculous. Ridiculous. 4 of my top 7 teams are in the Big 12. Kansas, Houston, Iowa State, and Baylor. Those might be your top 4 teams. Those teams will be in the top 10 going into next year. I'm fully confident of it. I mean, this conference, we mentioned how great it was. I talked a little bit about how it might have been overrated this year. How they didn't really have any real title contenders outside of Houston. Next year, I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, they've got some experience. They've got some guys coming in. I mean, Bill Self did one of the best jobs in the transfer portal I've ever seen. So, all right, let's start with Kansas's lineup. DeJuan Harris returns, the point guard, pass first point guard, terrific defender. Rylan Griffin comes in from Alabama, great shooter. AJ Storr, the best athlete in the portal, I can say. AJ Storr and KJ Adams, the Jays, KJ, AJ, probably the most athletic duo in the country by far. KJ Adams is not like the most talented basketball player, but he is an incredible athlete for his size. He can jump out of the gym. He's fast. Him and AJ Storr's the same way. Even Rylan Griffin's really athletic. This team is going to be scary with Hunter Dickinson returning as well. Now, I'm not as high on Hunter Dickinson as some others are. I think he's a terrific basketball player. He just hasn't really proven to me that he can really win yet. So I know they made a little bit of a run that one year with over at Michigan, but yeah, he's got to win. got to win, man. And then coming off the bench, I mean, their top 5 on the bench would probably be or their top 4, excuse me, that's what I have labeled. Their top 4 on the bench would probably be close to a top 25 team in the country. Now, remember we talked the whole year about how Kansas has no depth. That's not going to be the case this year. Just listen to this lineup. Let's start with Zeke Mayo from South Dakota State. Terrific scorer, 18 points a game last year. Riley Kugel was supposed to be a draft pick from Florida, but he battled some injuries. He didn't have a great year this year, but he's still extremely talented. Zeke Mayo is like that was a pickup that was worthy of its own, and he's probably going to be coming off the bench. Now, bear in mind, Johnny Furphy might also be back. If Johnny Furphy's back, I mean, they're going to have 8 shooting guards on the team. It's ridiculous. Flory Badunga, he is their freshman. He's their star freshman that they have coming in. He is the 13th ranked recruit, big guy, 6'8", huge wingspan, just physical down low. He's dominant. Go watch his overtime highlights. It's pretty cool. Then Marco Jackson. We'll say his name. You never know. He might have some, he's got some room for improvement, obviously. Couldn't have been much worse than he did last year, but he's still a talented kid. We'll see if he can move up. So Johnny Furphy comes back. You got Rylan Griffin, AJ Storr, Riley Kugel, Zeke Mayo, Marco Jackson. Wow. That's a lot of shooting guards. What do they do there? I think Johnny Furphy's going to be gone, though. I can't believe Johnny Furphy is an NBA talent, quite frankly, but he is. And this draft class is weak, so I think he will be there when the time comes of the NBA draft. That's what it's looking like. I'm guessing Zeke Mayo is going to come off the bench, but it could be Rylan Griffin. You never know, but I doubt it. Moving on to UConn, Hassan Diarra is going to be running the point. He was the Big East Sixth Man of the Year last year. I've noted on here a few times, if you watch Hassan Diarra shoot, he doesn't miss. It's like one of those times where it's like that Chris Paul mid-range. You watch him and you're like, I don't think I've ever seen this guy miss. He is a terrific scorer. He can lead the offense. I think he's going to step in well to this role, better than people expect. Aiden Mahaney, I expect to start at the 2. I would think Liam McNeely to start at the 3. He's a terrific talent. I do expect Alex Karaban to come back. I know that's kind of a game time decision. I do have him labeled because I think he's going to come back. Then I have Samson Johnson starting at the 5. He might not. It's going to be him or Terrace Reed. I'm curious to see. I just threw Samson Johnson in there because he's returning. So that's a pretty solid starting 5. They got some shooters, and they got Dan Hurley running that offense. They got some athletes. Mahaney, start with Diarra, Mahaney, McNeely, Karaban. That's some 3-point shooting right there that you don't see very often. And then you got either Terrace Reed or Samson Johnson coming off the bench. I'm going to say Terrace Reed just for the sake of it. Jalen Stewart also coming back. He is a talented kid. Same with Solomon Ball. Ahmed Noel is their freshman, the 31st ranked recruit in the country. Then Yusuf Singer, another one of those guys who's like 6'10", pretty quick. Hasn't really gotten the playing time he needed, but he was behind Donovan Clingan and Samson Johnson. If they didn't bring in Terrace Reed, Singer was going to be the guy. He's got some athletic ability. I still expect him to get some minutes. We'll see how he can perform this year. And then Houston. Let's move on to Houston. Houston brought in Milos Uzan from Oklahoma. I think he is going to run the point guard. Houston didn't do as much in the transfer portal as I expected them, quite frankly. They do have a great team returning, though. Emmanuel Sharp, LJ Cryer. LJ Cryer is going to be on All-American watch this year. Javier Francis, the big guy, big lefty. Same with Juwan Roberts, the big lefty. Both big bodies down low, physical, great defenders. This defensive team is going to be great. Obviously, it's tough losing Jamal Shed. I wish he would have came back. But we're not going to get him. But he's replaced by Milos Uzan, and Terrence Arsenault comes back. Remember Terrence Arsenault from last year got hurt, and everyone started writing Houston off. Nah, he's back. It's going to be great. Joseph Tugler also coming back, along with Malik Wilson, Chase McCarthy, Jacob McFarland, couple of Micks at the bottom. So that should be a very fun team to watch there. Houston, defensively great. Kelvin Sampson, reigning coach of the year. We'll see how they do going forward. Let's move on to North Carolina. North Carolina, our 4th-ranked team. Elliot Cadeau is back in R.J. Davis. I think R.J. Davis will be the preseason Wooden Award Player of the Year. I think he's the front runner as of right now, him or Dickinson. Cade Tyson, Ian Jackson, and Jalen Washington all coming back. We also just got notice that Jalen Withers is coming back. Seth Trimble also deciding to come back. And then the freshman Drake Powell, that'll be a nice addition. Zayden High, James Brown. This is a terrific lineup. I'm looking forward to North Carolina. I think they got their stuff figured out with Caleb Love departing. They just got better. Elliot Cadeau is going to have to work on his shooting. I will say that, but I think RJ Davis is going to average over 20 a game. And Cade Tyson, I was actually disappointed in Cormac Ryan this year. I'm not going to lie. He had some games where he was brilliant, but he had some games where it's like, where was he at? Like, he just didn't show up. I think Cade Tyson is actually a better basketball player than Cormac Ryan, so I'm looking forward to seeing this team. They're going to need that big guy down low. Will Jalen Washington or Jalen Withers make a big jump? We'll see. We'll see going forward. At number 5, I have Alabama. Alabama returning from the Final Four last year. They're returning Mark Sears, as we already mentioned. That'll be he's terrific. He is one of the best pure shooters in college basketball. Aiden Holloway also coming in from Auburn. That'll be fun. Chris Youngblood coming in from USF. Jaren Stevenson and Grant Nelson returning from their Final Four team. Grant Nelson looks to make a big step. Same with Jaren Stevenson. They also have Latrell Wrightsell Jr., Darian Reed, Houston Millette, Muhammad Diobate transferring in, and Aiden Sherrill. This is a nice lineup. A lot of great guard play. They're just going to fling threes once again. I loved the addition of Chris Youngblood. I think he's going to fit in real well. Grant Nelson and Mark Sears they're going to be the guys this year, just as they were last year, except now they have Final Four experience. Mark Sears gets better and better every year. Grant Nelson is going to get a little thicker. He's just going to keep getting better. It's going to be a fun team to watch. At number 6, I have Iowa State, which I've gotten hated on for having Iowa State outside the top 5. Team was great last year. Don't get me wrong. They won the Big 12, dominated Houston in the Big 12 tournament. I don't think they were a top 10 team last year, quite frankly. I know they ended up, 6 in the AP poll going into March Madness, but they got beat by Illinois, who got beat by UConn by 30. I know that's not how it works, but I thought this team... I was waiting on their downfall all year, and it didn't really come. I think they would have matched up better with UConn, but I don't think they were terrific. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they were like a top tier team to the point where I'm like, yeah, I have to rank them in the top 5 because they have all these great players returning. I don't see that. I think they have a great team returning. I think 6 is obviously a terrific team, but I don't think they're top 5 dominant yet. Their lineup's looking like Taman Lipsey. He's going to be great. He'll be all Big 12 at some point next year. Was one of the teams. Keyshawn Gilbert, Curtis Jones, Milan Momcilovic, Deshaun Jackson. Coming off the bench, they got transferred Josh Jefferson from St. Mary's, Nate Heiss, Brandon Chatfield, Nojis Indrusakis. It's something like that. I've never been able to pronounce his name. And then JT Rock. This is a good lineup. It's a good lineup. Don't get me wrong, but obviously they're a terrific defensive team, and it's kind of been going through social media that defense just doesn't win you championships anymore. You have to have some offensive firepower. They're going to have to improve a little bit on the offensive end. Obviously, Momcilovic, great offensive player. So is Taman Lipsey. Even Keyshawn Gilbert's good, but they need that guy. They need that guy to take that leap. I think it's going to be Taman Lipsey this year. They're going to be competing for a Big 12 championship again. They're that good. At 7, staying in the Big 12, Baylor. Baylor got a terrific team coming in, highlighted by the transfer of Jeremy Roach, experienced guy. This is what they need. They needed this type of transfer. Last year they had a decent team. I didn't take them going very far. I didn't think they were. They weren't like typical Scott Drew teams with RJ Dennis and Jacoby Walter just kind of run and gun, kind of get your own shots. I don't think that's going to be the case next year with Jeremy Roach. Jeremy Roach is just a terrific, experienced point guard. Jaden Nunn will be in the starting lineup, and then VJ Edgecombe. I think he's probably, he's top 3 of my favorite freshmen coming into next year. I think he's number 6 overall recruit. That's going to be fun to watch. Jason Esamota is going to be in the 4. I actually had Langston Love playing the 4. I thought they might play small ball, but sorry if you're listening to this and I'm not giving you the source, but someone's who I'm appreciative of said Jason Esamota will be the starting 4, and then Josh Ojinawu, Ojiwuna, something like that. He's good. He was there last year. He's a big guy. He's the size that they need down low. They've got all kinds of names on their team that they always get, where it's just crazy names. They will have Langston Love coming off the bench, along with Rob Wright. Two very good options coming off the bench, along with Giannis Njonga and then Omar Ajibola, something like that. Some of these guys, I'm not going to act like I know everyone. I have no idea who that is. I can't remember. I don't know if he's a transfer or a freshman or what he is, or just a returner. He's on the bench. He was one of the notable players listed. The top 7. That's about it. So shout out to whoever said Jason Asamota as a starter. I thought it might be Langston Love, play small ball, but it definitely makes sense to throw Asamota in there. Moving on. Number 8, Gonzaga. Moving out of the Power 5. Moving into the old WCC. Ryan Nembhard starting at point guard. They're returning just about everyone. Now, I mentioned a lot last year. I thought this team was a little bit overrated, but they played well at the end of the year. They were hot going in. They made the Sweet 16, which Mark Few does every year. So why wouldn't they do it again this year? I got him at number 8. Ryan Nembhard, as mentioned, at the point guard. He's not my favorite player. I don't think he's that good, quite frankly. I think he's okay. I think he's a good passing point guard. I think he is a rough shooter. If I were Mark Few, I would tell him to please stop shooting threes. Someone I would not tell to stop shooting threes, Nolan Hickman. Just like we mentioned Hassan Diarra, every time Nolan Hickman gets the ball, I expect it to go in. Every time he shoots, it's pure. He's a great player. I'm looking forward to it. They'll get Steele Venters back. That'll be a nice add there. Ben Gregg going to be starting at the 4, and then Graham Ike coming back at the 5. They are losing Anton Watson. Coming off the bench, transfer from Pepperdine, Michael Ajayi. Dusty Stromer coming back, Braden Huff. That is a terrific top 8. That's one of the, I've seen people putting them as high as number 1. I have seen them number 1. I get it. That's a great lineup coming back from a team that was blazing hot. I don't think their talent is number 1, but I think it is good. Don't get me wrong. Also coming off the bench, Luka Kranjnovic. Don't know who that is. I apologize. John Suk Yo. Also don't know who that is. I apologize, but I'm sure they'll be okay unless they run an 8-man roster. If you go to Gonzaga, you're usually pretty good. So we'll see. At number 9, I do have Duke. Duke was the favorite right away to win the national championship, and I think that is just complete bogus. I don't think they should. I have them at number 9, and I felt generous. I'm not going to lie. I actually started them at number 12, but I'm like, I can't put Tennessee ahead of them, losing Dalton Knecht and UCLA, who was horrible last year, but I'm not that bought in on Duke this year. I'm not going to lie. It all comes down to Tyrese Proctor. I truly believe it. We talked previously how Tyrese Proctor, I think, was the most disappointing player in college basketball last year. Such high expectations, such a great talent, don't get me wrong. I know he battled some injuries, but he was not good. He was not Duke level at all. How many games did he lay a goose egg? Couldn't score. Caleb Foster showed signs. The first couple games, I know he was a freshman. The first couple games I watched him, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a Duke basketball player. He got better. Don't get me wrong. He got better. He's okay. It's Duke, though. It's Duke. You got to be better than okay. Cooper Flagg is better than okay, obviously, but I think it's going to be kind of like a Brandon Miller trying to carry Alabama through that 1 seed a couple years ago. I mean, obviously he was terrific. He was an All-American. That might be what Cooper Flagg does, but I don't think the pieces around him are that good. Mason Gillis is going to be the 4. Terrific shooter. Don't get me wrong. Who's your pass-first point guard, though? I don't know. Kamen Malak, also a freshman. He's going to be really good. But it's a freshman. This really reminds me of like a John Calipari team in the years where he kind of failed. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a 1 seed. Like, don't get me wrong. I also wouldn't be surprised if you catch them and they're like a 6 or 7 seed. That's a heavy pick to make the Final Four as like a 7 seed. I do love the pickup of Malik Brown from Syracuse. He is incredibly efficient. He might start over Mason Gillis. I'm not quite sure. I would start him over Mason Gillis. I think it's going to be Mason Gillis just because of his name, Mason Gillis. They made the national championship last year. I would start Malik Brown. Con Newpel, also a freshman. Their freshman class is absolutely incredible. Don't get me wrong. Same with Patrick Nganga, Isaiah Evans, Darren Harris. 1 through 10, they have talent. They're one of the most talented teams in the country. There's a difference between talented and being a good basketball team, and they're going to be good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think they're going to miss the tournament. I don't think they're going to pull a North Carolina and miss the tournament. But I'm not there yet. I have them number 9, and I'm a little generous. I think I saw John Rothstein's list. I think he has them like 12th or something, which I was like, hey, respect to you. I'm sure he's getting a lot of hate for it, but hey, I actually agree with him there. Moving into the SEC. Yes, they're in the SEC now. It is Texas. Texas moves into the SEC. Got the transfer of Jordan Pope and Tremont Mark. Very nice pickups. Trey Johnson, Jason Kent, Caden Shendrick. Very nice starting lineup. I like this team. I don't really like Rodney Terry running the program that much, but hey, he won a Big 12 championship 2 years ago. You got to give him one more chance. Like, I would never fire him. I know he was kind of on the hot seat list. I would have not fired him. Like, he won the Big 12 2 years ago once after taking over when Chris Beard had all that stuff going on. He's okay. I'm giving him another chance, but last year was rough. Shendell Weaver coming off the bench, he is terrific. He is a good basketball player. He's one of the best six men in the country. Nicholas Cody, Julian Larry, nice. Very nice pickups. Tariq Onyema and Devin Pryor. I like this Texas team a lot. I have them ranked 10. I know, that seems high. As soon as I'm filling out, I'm like, who's going to call me out on it? No one really had Texas at number 10. I'm like, I'm in on them. Moving on, but staying in the SEC, yes, they're going to be coaching against each other. Rodney Terry taking on Rick Barnes in Tennessee, his old school Texas. Now at Tennessee, obviously Tennessee losing their big piece, losing Dalton Knecht. It hurts. I don't think Dalton Knecht was near as important to his team as. Let me not say that. Let me rephrase this. Obviously he was incredibly important. I think the team around him was better than R.J. Davis had around him and what Zach Edey had around him. I'll say that. Zakai Ziegler is terrific. He is good. He is a good basketball player. Jemai Mashak is back, and the transfer of Darlene Stone Dubar was terrific to kind of replace Dalton Knecht. Igor Milicic also in there. Felix Okpara, the transfer from Ohio State, bringing in some size. I know they lost Adu and Knecht. It's like you might think, but I don't know. Something about this team I really like. They got Estrella coming off the bench, also with some size. Jordan Gainey is going to take a huge leap this year. I'm so confident in it. I think Jordan Gainey is a terrific shooter. Yeah, there's a couple games last year I know where it was just like, yeah, he was there. But I think he's going to take a big leap. I think he's going to be in a much, much bigger role this year. Going into last year, everyone's talking. It's like, who's it going to be, Jordan Gainey or Dalton Knecht? I think that was kind of answered quickly, but Jordan Gainey, still a terrific basketball player. Cameron Carr, Cade Phillips, and Bishop Boswell rounding out the bench. This is a good team. 1 through 7, 1 through 8, 1 through 9. I think they're going to be good. I truly do. Their identity, they kind of lost their identity a little bit last year for the good. It was for the good with their defensive specialist team. Zakai Ziegler was the defensive player of the year in the SEC last year. He's back. He might be an all SEC type player. I think he's going to make a leap, him and Jordan Gainey. I think this is going to be a fun team to watch. I do have him up to 11 as of right now. Moving into the Big Ten. You might think it's on the East Coast. It is not. We are going way west to UCLA. I know. How can I rank UCLA number 12? I know. This roster is spectacular, though. Mick Cronin, he had a rough year. Don't get me wrong. It was not good for him personally. It was not good for him professionally. It wasn't a good year. This roster this year, if he fails with this, he has to go. Like, it is terrific. First off, Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack were the bright spots of UCLA last year. Adem Bona was also there. He's a good player, but he was kind of just, I don't even know how to describe him. I'm not going to talk bad about him. Dylan Andrews and Sebastian Mack are back. They are good basketball players. They're UCLA basketball players, what you expect. Sky Clark coming in from Louisville. Yeah, I know. We're talking Louisville. We're talking UCLA from last year. It can't be that good, right? They are. Their starting lineup is filled with the stars of the scrub teams last year. Kobe Johnson from USC. He might not have been the star. It was Isaiah Collier. But Kobe Johnson is like you knew Isaiah Collier was getting out of there. Kobe Johnson's that guy you want. He's a stud. Eric Daly coming from Oklahoma State. He is also a stud. He was their stud. Oklahoma State had a lot of transfers where everyone's like how was this team so bad last year? And it's a great question. They also got the transfer of Tyler Bilodeau coming off the bench. Tyler Bilodeau would start just about anywhere in the country other than this terrific starting five. Lazar Stefanovic, he was a starter last year, and he was a great scorer. He's back. He'll be coming off the bench, I expect. He might start just for the loyalty of the program. Ade Mara is 7'1" and huge. He's going to make a big leap this year. 1 through 8, I would put this roster up against just about anyone. It's can Mick Cronin put the pieces together. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Moving on to number 13, moving back to the SEC, the Florida Gators, led by Todd Golden. Starting with Walter Clayton, that is spectacular. Will Richard, that is also spectacular. And then they brought in Elijah Martin, who I'm lower on than most, but He's a proven player. He made a Final Four. Sam Alexis and Alex Condone, with Thomas Hall coming off the bench, Denzel Aberdeen, Oliver Rooks, Isaiah Brown, and Ruben Chinello. I don't know who he is. I apologize if you're listening to this, Ruben Chinello. I don't know who he is, but Walter Clayton, he might be an all-SEC performer next year. Same with Will Richard. I think Elijah Martin's a little bit in over his head. I love FAU, and I loved his piece in them making the Final Four. Watching him this last year was rough, unless he has a big recovery year. I'm a little skeptical on that one, but I think they got speed, they got shooters, they got size. This team's good. Florida's going to be really good. Moving on into the Big 12 with all this conference realignment craziness. Arizona now in the Big 12. Jaden Bradley, proven player. He's going to be back. I'm excited for this team. I'm excited Caleb Love's out of there. Sorry, Caleb Love, but get out of college, please. I'm tired of watching your teams fail. As bad as it sounds, I know you made a national championship, but last year was so disappointing. Yes, I'm still salty that Arizona got beat by freaking Clemson. Can't lose to Clemson right there. You had so much more talent, just got out-coached, outplayed, letting Caleb Love just huck up threes. All right, this rant's over. KJ Lewis will be also stepping into the starting lineup. Trey Townsend, watch out for Trey Townsend. I'm so excited. I think he is terrific. I knew about him going into March Madness with Oakland and obviously beating Kentucky. Obviously, Jack Golke was the star. Trey Townsend was the star the entire season. Like, this was a legit, he was the best player on the best team in the conference by a long shot. Carter Bryant, Krivas is coming back. Montejes Krivas is coming back. 7'2". I'm excited to see the step he'll make with Umar Ballo getting out of there. Coming off the bench, Hosan Sainin, Jamari Phillips, Toby Awaka. Remember Toby Awaka? We already talked about him coming from Tennessee. He's now at Arizona. Henry Visar, Emmanuel Steffen. That's gonna be their starting 10, I would say. Top 8 is good. Toby Awaka, good defender. Obviously, playing for Rick Barnes, you got to be a great defender. I'm excited. I think Trey Townsend's going to be the star in a not Caleb Love-like just huck up shots. Watching Arizona, they had all the talent in the world last year. Umar Ballo, number 1 overall recruit. Caleb Love going to the NBA. Pele Larson going to the NBA. I thought Pele Larson was great. I thought right after Tyrese Proctor, Umar Ballo is I think the most overrated basketball player, and I know he's number 1 in most spots, which is why I've been lower on Indiana for a while. People learned how to guard him. You let him catch the ball up top. If he gets down low, you foul him. He's one of the worst free throw shooters I've ever seen in my life, legitimately. I think he's out of there. I wanted them to play Krivas more, but they just refused to. Umar Ballo is the bigger name, more NIL money. I get it. I'm excited to see Krivas step into this role. I think this Arizona team, this is the team that's scrappy enough to make a little bit of a run where they're probably not as talented as last year, but they have guys who know what they want. They want to win. They don't have the Caleb Loves. They don't have the Umar Ballos who shoots 40% from the free throw line. Pele Larson was great. I have nothing bad to say about Pele Larson. Sorry for all the complaining today. I'm sick of these teams who I'm taking to the Final Four. I am salty, and they end up losing in the Sweet 16 to Clemson. So yes, it is 100% my fault for taking them to the Final Four, but yes, I'm still going to be mad at them. That's Arizona for this year. Got them ranked number 14. Number 15, a team who did not disappoint last year and made it all the way to the championship game, Purdue. I don't know where to rank Purdue. I've been seeing people rank them 10. I actually had them in the 20s at one point. Got them up to 15 right now, so right in the middle. Braden Smith coming back. He's going to be their star this year. Fletcher Lawyer, I think, is a little bit overrated. He's not overrated. He is what he is. He's a shooter and kind of nothing more, as bad as it sounds. I don't mean that in such a bad way. Miles Colvin, yeah, I don't love it. Cam Heidi at the 4, I do like that. I think he's a good player. And Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to take off this year. Mark my words, Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to have himself a year. Sign me up for 15-plus points per game and 7-plus rebounds a game. Trey Kaufman-Renn is going to be the guy this year. Caleb Furst coming off the bench. They have a solid starting 6. I would almost love to see him just play Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer as the 1-2 and then get Miles Colvin out of there. He might make a big step. A lot of people loved him last year, and every time, I don't know if I saw him make a shot last year. We'll see. They also got Kanan Catchings, Jakari Harris, Raleigh Burgess, Daniel Jacobson. Fun little team. It's going to be fun to see how they do without Zach Edey. Going to have to just switch it up. Go back to Carson Edward ball instead of Isaac Haas and Zach Edey ball. So it'll be fun to watch. Moving on, number 16, we have Auburn. J.P. Peggs, a transfer coming in. Denver Jones, Chris Moore, Chad Baker-Mazara, and Jonai Broom back for another year. Bench is good. They have a great bench. They're deep. Dylan Cardwell, Tahad Pettiford, Cheney Johnson, Jackie Howard, and Blake Mushalek. I don't know who that is. Quite frankly, I do not know who that is. But they're 1 through 8. I like this team. Remember when everyone was talking last year about Auburn? Why are they not ranked? They're a top 10 team. Why are they not ranked? They were ranked great at KenPom, and this was one of those teams that was ranked great at KenPom where every time I watched them, I'm like, why are they ranked great at KenPom? Now, maybe I just caught them on some bad nights. I know they did pretty well, and they were the heavy favorite at one point to win the SEC, and I'm like, no shot. Absolutely no shot. That wasn't the most talented team in the world. I had them beating Yale, but losing to San Diego State after that, but I thought they were overrated the entire year. They didn't have that guy. Aiden Holloway was disappointing. I get it, but they didn't really have that guy. I know Jonai Broom's supposed to be that guy, but like outside of him, just absolutely no one. Especially with Aiden Holloway shooting clanks. I've seen people ranking them in the top 5 this year. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I get they're deep, but I think they're averagely deep. I would put them up against just about anyone, and any of these deep teams, and I'm like, yeah, their rosters are very similar. Putting Auburn up there, kind of just a popularity game, putting them up at 16. If it were completely up to me, yeah, maybe 25. I don't think they're that great. We'll see going forward. Hopefully they prove me wrong. I feel bad. I'm talking bad about just about every team so far. Hey, don't lose to Yale, and I won't talk bad about you. I apologize. Moving on. Number 17, Marquette. Marquette losing Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro, obviously huge. Still like what they got with their roster coming in, though. They return a lot of solid players. Stevie Mitchell, Cam Jones. Cam Jones is going to be getting All-American looks this year. I can confidently say that. He's really underappreciated. He led their team in scoring last year. It wasn't Kolek, wasn't Ighodaro. It was Cam Jones. Chase Ross, David Joplin, Ben Gold, all familiar names, all coming back from Marquette, along with Sean Jones. Get him back from the injury. Thank God. I'm so glad to get him back. He was taken off last year and got hurt, unfortunately. I like that team. I like that starting 6 a lot. Along with Trey Norman. Trey Norman also good. Demarius Owens, Royce Parham, Al Amadou. I don't know who he is. I'm just going to keep saying that. I apologize. I don't know who he is, but I like this starting 6 is where I'll go. I actually had them ranked higher than someone, I don't know who it was, so shout out to them, who actually pointed it out, and they're like, without Kolek and Ighodaro, it's like, who's going to, yeah, and it kind of just clicked to me. I'm like, yeah, I think I had him 10th. I'm like, yeah, that's too high. So I got him down to 17 right now. Moving on to 18, Cincinnati. This is kind of just a gut call here. I liked what they did at the end of last year. I kind of watched them a lot last year, and I'm like, this team has it. It's just not all come together yet. I kept telling people, I'm like, next year Cincinnati's going to be really good. I was saying it about all the Ohio schools. Cincinnati, Xavier, Dayton, even though obviously Dayton struggled a little bit with the transfer portal, and even Ohio State. Throw Ohio State in there. And you know who else is going to be good is Akron. Akron's going to be really good this year. They picked up some great pieces in the transfer portal. They're going to be good again. Cincinnati. They got some great names, too. Day Thomas, Jizzle James, Simus Lacucius, Dan Skillings. Those are going to be your guys. Those are your 4 guys right there where it's like, yeah, I'll put that up with just about anyone in the country. Aris Badongo, CJ Frederick coming off the bench, Connor Hickman, Arrington Page, Tyler Betsy, Tyler McKinley. That's a pretty good roster. That is a good team. I'm looking forward to this team this year. I think they're getting more national attention than I expected. I kind of thought this was going to be a sleeper, but I've been seeing a lot of people rank them like right around the 25 area. I have them up to 18. I'm super, super excited for the Cincinnati team being in the Big 12. Remember, they dominated Kansas. I think we're going to find them in March Madness this year. I'm optimistic for that. Moving on. From Cincinnati, drive up about an hour and a half to Ohio State. Ohio State at number 19. This team, I am ecstatic about. Yes, I'm biased. Yes, I'm from Ohio. So, yeah, that's why I knew all those schools. But I love this lineup. This is a terrific lineup. I've actually been seeing them as high as number 15 for some. It all comes down to Jake DeBoer. Jake DeBoer did a terrific job at the end of last season. Your first game ever, you beat Purdue. You beat the national runner-up in your first head coaching game ever. Now, was it just kind of a spur of the moment, new coach, let's rally around him? Or is he a terrific basketball coach? That's what we're going to find out. He has been terrific in the transfer portal. I will say that. Been terrific. Bruce Thornton was their stud. He'll be back. He is coming back. He'll be their point guard. Him or Michi Johnson, whichever it swings. They're both more score first, so that's kind of going to be interesting to see. Michi Johnson coming back. Started at Ohio State, went to South Carolina, now back to Ohio State after making a huge name for himself. His NIL deals are going to be pretty spectacular. Mike Parrish transferring over from San Diego State. Sean Stewart, which we just got notice of, transferring from Duke, 5-star recruit. Another 5-star, Aaron Bradshaw. I love this team. I think this team is going to be terrific with Devin Royal and Evan Mahaffey coming off the bench. Watch out for the Buckeyes this year. That's kind of my dark horse as of right now. Colin White, Junie Mobley, Tayson Chapman. Those are your other players coming off the bench. I like this lineup 1 through 5. I like the guard play more than most in the Big Ten. Bruce Thornton, Michi Johnson. I'm looking forward to it. Moving on, number 20, Creighton. I actually didn't rank Creighton for a while because quite frankly, I didn't think Alexander or Kalkbrenner was going to come back. But now that Kalkbrenner's coming back, I felt comfortable ranking him. Ranked him at 20. Stephen Ashworth, and also the addition of Pop Isaacs. Stephen Ashworth is back running point. It's not like he's going to step into like a Trey Alexander role. Like people are saying, they're like, oh, Stephen Ashworth. No, he's not. No, he is not. Like he's fun. I love watching him. I think he seems like he's a nice guy, great shooter. Don't get me wrong, great shooter. But he can't just like create shots like himself. He's more of just come off the screen, just fire kind of guy. Pop Isaacs can create shots for himself, but whatever happened to his legal troubles? That's kind of what I'm worried about. Obviously, Greg McDermott, I wouldn't expect. Obviously, it's just kind of been put down in the dark. I don't think anything's going to happen. But remember, he had all those legal troubles. They're still kind of going on. They also brought in Jemiah Neal. I love this. Mason Miller, I don't love at the 4. He kind of just lefty, big, lengthy lefty that only shoots threes. Doesn't make a lot of them, but every once in a while he has a solid game. He only shoots threes too. Ryan Kalkbrenner, that's going to be huge. He's going to have a massive year. I'm convinced of it. Their bench is also good. They're deep. Jason Green, Frederick King, Isaac Trout, Ty Davis, Larry Johnson. This is a nice little team for Creighton. I'm obviously not going to rank them as high as last year, losing Shireman, losing Alexander. They bring back Kalkbrenner. They bring in Isaacs. They got Ashworth back, who Ashworth made huge improvements last year. So I'm excited to see what they can do. Moving on, back to the SEC. Let's talk about Texas A&M coming in at 21. Wade Taylor coming back. I was skeptical about ranking them. They were disappointing last year, then they were great last year, then they were disappointing, and then I'm like, wow, this team almost beat Houston, and now what do you do for next year? I don't know. Wade Taylor, he'll be an all-SEC player because he shoots about 20 times a game. Nah, he doesn't shoot 20 times a game, but he shoots a lot. You get the point. Manny Obaseki coming back. He made a big jump last year. I'm excited to see what he can do. Sullivan Washington coming back. Anderson Garcia and Henry Coleman. Henry Coleman was just a nuisance last year. Didn't really do much of anything. Hopefully he can get he's had some injury problems. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully he can come back and provide for this Texas A&M team who has high expectations. I've seen him up to 12 in some rankings. Farrell Payne, Zurich Phelps, Jace Carter, CJ Wilshire, George Turkson coming off the bench. It's a good team. I hope they put the pieces together. I loved them last year. I thought they were going to be a sleeper all year last year until they came around, and they kind of were. I mean, obviously they won the 9-8 game, and then they took, obviously in incredible fashion, took Houston to overtime. But they've got talent. I hope they can make it work. At 22, do have Indiana. Indiana going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch this year. I mean, their roster is I didn't rank them, but looking at it, it's oh my goodness, where did you come up with this kind of money to get all these players here? Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, Mackenzie Mbako, Malik Renew, Umar Ballo. I know I hated on Umar Ballo. I've hated on Malik Renew quite a bit too. I'm yeah, he's pretty good, but he's pretty good on a bad team, which is kind of what he was last year. I've said it a million times. I think Killa Ware was better than Umar Ballo. I think people are learning how to guard Umar Ballo, but he's a terrific rebounder, big body down low. I love Miles Rice. Kanan Carlisle, we'll have to see. Coming from Stanford, we'll have to see. They also got Luke Goody in. He'll be coming off the bench, I would expect, from Illinois. Trey Galloway, he's one of those where it's like, will he start? He's been there a while. Will he start at the 2 and Kanan Carlisle come off the bench? I think Trey Galloway is quite, like, every once in a while, he makes some shots. Don't get me wrong. He'll make some big ones. I don't think he's good. I do not think he is a very good bet. Like, everyone's like, oh, Trey Galloway made a huge step. I'm like, he shot like 25% from 3. Like, no. Gabe Cupps, terrific defender. I expected him to do more last year, too. That Indiana team last year, just so disappointing. I had them ranked in my preseason last year, and they ended up like 91st at KenPom. That's why I'm hesitant to rank them. 91st at KenPom. They were talented last year. Don't come in 91st at KenPom. Bryson Tucker and Anthony Leal, that's a good even 9-10. The roster is loaded. Please do not mess this up, Mike Woodson. You should be a top 15 team all year. I'm skeptical about Mike Woodson. I'm skeptical about pieces such as Trey Galloway, Malik Renew, Umar Ballo. We're going to find out. I think if you gave Illinois, just picture this as Illinois' roster. Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, Luke Goody, Bryson Tucker, Anthony Leal. I think I would rank that team higher than I have this entire roster at Indiana, strictly because of Brad Underwood and Mike Woodson. I know, it sounds crazy. I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. Indiana belongs in the top 25. Like, they're the most... You think of Indiana Hoosiers, you're like, basketball. They need to be there. I want them to be there so bad. We're going to see. We're going to have to find out. I'm optimistic, but I'm not going to give them top 10 status right now like I've seen others. Moving on to Clemson. Clemson dropped down to 23. I had him at like 15 until P.J. Hall left. Chase Hunter, Jaden Zachary, Dylan Hunter, Ian Shiflin, Victor Lakin. Coming off the bench, Dallas Thomas, Ace Buckner, Dell Jones, Asa Thomas. I'm not that bought in anymore. I feel bad. I really wish they could have brought back P.J. Hall, but this team's not going to be bad. Chase Hunter is going to have a massive year. Keep Chase Hunter in the back of your mind. He's going to be terrific. I can confidently say that. Ian Shiflin just isn't the player P.J. Hall was in terms of scoring. Ian Shiflin might be my favorite player to watch. He is if you said name one player in college basketball that's the best hustler, I would say Ian Shiflin. He has the heart. He has the will to win. I love him. I think he's terrific. He's just not as talented as P.J. Hall. That's nothing against him. He might be a better fit. Don't get me wrong. P.J. Hall had some games last year where he really struggled, but it hurts. It hurts. I would love to see both of them going together, but Victor Lakin should step in and be all right. Big 6'11". Moving on, Arkansas. Gotta talk about Arkansas and John Calipari. Let's look at what their roster is going to be looking like next year. They only have 7 people right now, but their top 6, pretty spectacular. John L. Davis, he might be an All-American. I'm excited to see what John L. Davis can do in a spectacular basketball conference. Boogie Flan, the freshman, coming in. Same with Carter Knox. Jonas Adu and Zvonimir Ivisic. Wow. I don't know if Zvonimir Ivisic is going to start. Billy Richmond might start, and Jonas Adu might play the 5. That'd be a pretty small roster. Jonas Adu and Zvonimir Ivisic can play together, though. I think they really can. I think they can make it work with both their size. Jonas Adu is a terrific defender. Zvonimir Ivisic is a horrible defender. Zvonimir Ivisic is a great offensive player. Jonas Adu is pretty solid on the offensive end. Don't get me wrong. I think they can play together. I think their weaknesses... Someone's got a weakness, someone's got a strength. I think you can alternate, and Calipari can figure it out. I like this team. I think this is a pretty good roster. They got a mix of, John L. Davis is like he's a legit star. So is Jonas Adu. You got Zvonimir Ivisic, who's been in Calipari's program. You got the freshman, like he's always going to get. It's a fun team. I'm excited to watch it. Billy Richmond and Lawson Blake coming off the bench as of right now. I'm excited to see it. Got him ranked 24 right now. Now moving on, number 25, Rutgers. I don't know what to do with Rutgers. What do I do with Rutgers? Man, oh man, do I wish Clifford Omori was going to be there. I wish he would have stayed. Cliff Omori, Ace Bailey, and Dylan Harper, Tyson Acuff. Oh my goodness. You're looking at a top 15 team right there, but without him, they're going to rely a lot on Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. For those who don't know, number 2, number 3 recruits in the country. Like, yes, Rutgers got them. Interesting, I know. Dylan Harper, the son of, or the brother of Ron Harper. Excuse me. Why couldn't I come up with his name? Ron Harper. Jamichael Davis also going to be in that starting lineup with Tyson Acuff, Jeremiah Williams. Then we mentioned Ace Bailey, also a huge recruit. Coming off the bench, Zach Martini, Jordan Durant, Lathan Somerville, Dylan Grant, Bryce Dortch. Don't really know a lot about much of their bench, but they have talent. I had to include them. I'm excited. When's the last time you've been excited about Rutgers basketball? I'm pretty excited about Rutgers basketball this year. I had to include them. I think Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, like, it's rare you get a number 2 and number 3 recruit, along with Tyson Acuff. Tyson Acuff is a terrific player as well. I'm ecstatic. I'm ready to see what these players can do. At 26, Michigan State, Tom Izzo's squad. Just noticed they lost A.J. Hogard. We already talked about that. But Jeremy Fears running the point. Jaden Akins is going to be their guy this year, I can say. Or him or Frankie Fiddler. Frankie Fiddler, transfer from Omaha, averaged over 20 points per game last year. Spectacular. Jaden Akins on the defensive end and even offensively. He took off in March Madness, plus Frankie Fiddler, one of the most gifted scorers we have in college basketball. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a pretty fun team. I don't really know how to rank them because of the Frankie Fiddler thing. Will his game transfer over to the Big Ten level? We'll see. Also starting, I have Cohen Carr and Xavier Booker. Coming off the bench, Trey Holloman, Carson Cooper, Jace Richardson, a very sought-out freshman, son of Jason Richardson, Jackson Kohler, and Kurt Tang. Jackson Kohler and Kurt Tang probably won't play too much, but that starting 8, pretty good. Will Frankie Fiddler be the Dalton Connect from last year? We're going to see, because he is really, really good. Moving on, from Michigan State to Michigan. Michigan, just like Kentucky and Arkansas, as we mentioned, put together a completely new team. Trey Donaldson from Auburn, Roddy Gale from Ohio State, Nemuri Burnett, he's back, he was from Michigan, Sam Walters from Alabama, Vlad Golden from FAU following his coach there, along with Danny Wolf. Does Danny Wolf start? I don't know what they're going to do. Can you start Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden? I don't think he's not going to sit Vlad Golden. Can you start Danny Wolf instead of Sam Walters? Can they coexist? If I had to predict, I'd say Danny Wolf would come off the bench. They also have Reuben Jones, Justin Pippen, Will Shedder, Durrell Brooks. It's like talent is there. They're going to be better than last year. You can't be much worse than they were last year. But the talent is there. Don't have much to say about them right now other than they're talented. They're big. They're talented. We'll see. Moving on. Kentucky. Got to talk about Mark Pope's squad. It's going to be a fun team to watch. What can they do? They got 9 players on the team as of right now. I think the starting lineup is going to be Lamont Butler, defensive specialist, pass first point guard. Also hit a huge buzzer beater, if you didn't know. Send them to the championship game 2 years ago, San Diego State. Got Kobe Brea, as we mentioned, the best three-point shooter probably in the country. Otega Owe from Oklahoma. This was a great pickup. Big. He's only 6'5", but he's thick. He's muscular. Got Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison. Something's not... Like, this lineup, I don't think that I've pulled up for you guys watching on YouTube. I don't think it's right. I think Amari Williams or Brandon Garrison is going to sit, but I quite frankly have no idea what they're going to do. They might start. I don't know. They also have Kirk Kriisa coming off the bench, Colin Chandler, Andrew Carr. Yeah, I like Travis Perry. Oh man, I don't know. I think probably this. I'm just going to leave it at this for now. I'm just going to leave it as Amari Williams and Brandon Garrison. Maybe Andrew Carr and Brandon Garrison, and then Amari Williams coming off the bench. That might be more realistic. That's probably what I'd go with. So that graphic is not going to be correct for you guys, but I'm excited. I love seeing new teams and just what if they're terrific? What if they're horrible? There's a lot of fluctuation there. You have no idea. I'm excited to see it. Moving on into the ACC, let's talk about Miami. I had high hopes for Miami for a while until Wooga Poplar and Norchad Omier entered the transfer portal. Not the draft. But I heard Wooga Poplar might end up at Kentucky too as well, so keep that in mind. Going down Miami's lineup, Nigel Pack, Jaleel Bethia, number 6 overall recruit, Brandon Johnson, Matthew Cleveland, Lynn Kidd, the transfer from Virginia Tech, averaged 13 points a game last year. Got Jalen Blackman, Austin Schwartz, Isaiah Johnson Aragu, Paul Jobit, Carson Maston coming off the bench. So Miami, I'm optimistic again, as I am every year. Last year they failed me. Will they bring it back this year? They can't be much worse than they were last year. Just a disappointing year. I'm excited. Nigel Pack back, Jalil Bethia. That'll be a nice little backcourt. And rounding out our top 30, finally, I know it's been a lot of talking, Mississippi State. I didn't have Mississippi State ranked in my first rankings, but I do now. Kanye Clary, the transfer from Penn State, and Josh Hubbard. I am so glad Josh Hubbard's coming back. He's going to be a star. He is going to be an absolute star. Claudel Harris, Cam Matthews, Keyshawn Murphy coming off the bench. They got Sean Jones Jr., Delaquan Warren, Eric Payman. I don't really know who the last two are. Guy Chol, Michael Nwoko. We'll see. Maybe they can step into a role, make some improvement. I'm not sure who they are, but I like their starting five. I like Kanye Clary and Josh Hubbard. I'm big on that guard play. I think that's going to be a pretty fun basketball team to watch. I like Mississippi State. Hopefully they can improve a little bit from last year and not disappoint in March Madness again, though they had to go up against Izzo, unfortunately. Now, just a quick reminder, the teams I mentioned as considered, this was my 31 through 40, but didn't rank, so I'm not going to go over all their rosters. Xavier, NC State, Providence, St. Mary's, St. John's, Dayton, Memphis, Ole Miss, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Maryland. If you guys want a show where I go over all the lineups, let me know, or just feel free to shoot me a DM whenever, and I can tell you what I think the lineup's going to be. I have this huge Excel sheet, or you can just go check it out on Instagram, but it's changing. It's changing regularly. A few other notable teams I just wrote down in terms of out of the Power 5 was just was San Diego State, Boise State, New Mexico, so basically just Mountain West. Also St. Louis, because I think they're going to be pretty good this year in the A10. Might give Dayton a little run for their money. So that's just the other teams. Last thing I want to talk about, just the transfers that might fit into the transfer portal that haven't committed yet, that might fit into another role of like they might end up at Kentucky. And some of these I have predictions. Some of them like the only place you can really make predictions is Kentucky and Arkansas right now, quite frankly, just because they have all the spots available. So just going down the list real quick, we already mentioned Clifford Amore. Have him going to Kentucky. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's quite frankly a guess. Same with Great Osabar. Kentucky, Utah State, or Washington is kind of what I'm thinking he's going to end up. He might have cut it down to like those three already. I don't know if that's just popping into my brain or what. Dylan Mitchell, transferring from Texas, he'll end up somewhere. Chaz Lanier, the transfer from North Florida, he will end up somewhere. Adu Thiero from Kentucky, I think he might end up at Arkansas with following John Calipari. Same with DJ Wagner, I think he might end up at Arkansas as well. Kind of shocked that they haven't made the choice already, so maybe they're not. Khalif Battle is actually transferring from Arkansas. We'll see where he ends up. Desmond Cloud transferring from Xavier. Wish he would have stayed at Xavier. I liked that team until he transferred. I'm like, oh man. Devin Smith, something. I don't know. He's from Utah. He's a fast little point guard. If you didn't get to watch him, spectacular player. I hope he ends up somewhere big because I think he's got some serious power. TJ Bamba transferring. TJ Power from Duke. TJ Bamba from Villanova. Trezarian White also transferring along with Tyan Lawrence, Marcus Hill, Jalen Blackman, Garway Duel, Bronny James. Kind of remember Bronny James is in the transfer portal? Yeah, I kind of forgot about it too. He's in the transfer portal. Wesley Yates, Anthony Deliorso, Ben Humicaris, Wooga Poplar, Norchad Omir, Kadari Richmond. I do have a prediction for Norchad Omir. I think he's going to end up at St. John's. Kadari Richmond, Day-Day Ames, AJ Hogard, Jackson Robinson, who I think will end up at Kentucky, Posh Alexander, Ugana Onienso, Arthur Kaluma, Musa Cisse, Cam Christie, Jameer Watkins, Coleman Hawkins, JT Toppin, Nate Santos. I know that was fast. Those are just some of the players who might you'll see them in the news soon, where I think they'll be entering one of the Power 5 or one of these big Mountain West schools. All right. A lot of talking. I just talked for an hour straight. Thanks for those who stuck with us. Really appreciate it. Hopefully you got a little bit of insight. As always, ask questions if you want. Ask in the comments. DMs are always open on Instagram and Twitter. That's at Bracket Science, 2 S's. We post graphics like this all the time, so go give us a follow on there while you're at it. Before you leave, go down, smash a subscribe button. We're going to do an episode like this like once a week. We switch it up, though. Like we do a lot of betting stuff. We do a lot of national title odds, stuff like that. As I mentioned, my two sleepers right now, Texas and Ohio State. I like them to make a value-wise to have a chance to make the Final Four next year. So that's kind of the stuff we do. Click the subscribe, let us know you're here. Really appreciate everyone who stuck with us. Have a great weekend. Have a great next week. We'll talk to you sometime next week about some more madness going on. Take care.